In this video, I'm going to go through my top 5 tips to get you ready for retirement by age 55. Let's get into it. Hi, sorry to interrupt. I promise I'll be quick. I just wanted to thank you for the recent support that I've seen on the channel. I started shifting to a little bit more single specific content, and I've really seen the channel lift it up because of that. So in response to that, I want to make 2 commitments to you, and I want to ask one more thing of you. First, I just want to commit myself to doing more content for single retirees. In 2026, I'm going to commit to at least a ratio of 1-to-1 of anything specific to singles versus anything specific to a couple. My second commitment is that by the beginning of 2026, I will have adjusted my fee-for-service pricing model to reflect a price for single clients and for couple clients. Finally, there's my ask of you. I ask that you please continue to like, subscribe, and share these videos. I have some big goals for 2026, and I'm looking forward to your help with it. Back to the video. One of the big messages I want to convey in this video is that retiring at 55, which I do consider early, is still possible, but it is not easy. So let's get into the 5 tips. Tip number 1 is that you need to know your goal. Specifically, I mean, what dollar figure do you need to be aiming at to retire comfortably by 55? Now, this is a bit of an involved process finding this number, so this is how I would do it. First, I would take a good look, not a guess, not an assumption. I would take a good look at what I'm spending right now. In my opinion, to get a really good idea of what you're spending right now, you should go back 3 months in the checking account and your credit card statements and see exactly what you're doing. Why 3 months? Because I have yet to have a single month where there hasn't been a curveball of some kind thrown at me. That way, you can get a little bit more of an average of what you're actually spending in every different category. So that's the first part. Figure out exactly what it is that you're spending now. Next, you need to pull out the things that will not be there when you retire. Mainly debt and other things that might be related to your job, which I'm going to come back to point 1 in a second, but it leads me to point number 2, which is you have to be debt free. If you're aiming to retire early at 55, you cannot have the drag of weight hanging around your neck. It's just too much pressure on your financial situation. All right, so back to step number 1. Let's figure it out for me. I'm 37, which means age 55 is 18 years from now. How do I figure out how much I'm spending now translates into when I'm 55? It's actually easier than you think. So what you do is you take 1 plus the inflation rate that you're going to assume. Usually I'm using 2 or 2.5%. For this exercise, we'll use 2%. And then you take that to the power of the number of years remaining. So in this case, 1.02 to the power of 18. You multiply it then by what you're spending today, and that will give you the value of what that same spending will be 18 years from now. So if we use this number and we multiply it by, let's say, $5,000 in today's spending, that works out to $7,140 per month in retirement. That's the same spending then that $5,000 per month is now. So how much money do you need to comfortably provide $7,000 per month? This is where I go back to Chad's ratio. Chad's ratio is for every $1,000 that you want per month in retirement, you need somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 invested at time of retirement. When I made Chad's ratio, that's more geared towards a 30-year retirement, so starting at around 60 to 65, assuming a life expectancy around 90 to 95, which I know is beyond the averages, but when I plan for the longer time period. Being that this is a 55, I would go to the higher end of that. So if we're looking at $250,000 per $1,000 that I want to be spending, and I want to spend 7 units of that, that means my goal needs to be $1.75 million to comfortably retire by age 55. Now, before you comment below, you'll probably be able to point out something very glaring that's missing, and that's CPP and OAS. Here's what my opinion is for this. This is a projection. This is looking, in my case, 18 years into the future. I want to set this $1.75 million number as my target, whether or not CPP will be there. What I would suggest that you do, assuming you're in the same boat, is do the same. Ignore CPP and OAS for now, just for now. Start building towards this $1.75 million number. Then when you're maybe 50 and you're at, let's say, $1 million or 1.1 million, then you hire me for a financial plan and I bring the minutia, the detail of CPP and OAS into the picture, and maybe you're already there. Maybe you're only $100,000 away, whatever it is. But for now, 18, 20, 30 years out, depending on how old you are watching this video, just set that target, forget CPP and OAS, and drive for that number. If you get there, all you've done is create margin or luxury for your retirement. Tip number 3 is you've got to have a game plan. I also call this reverse engineering. You look at the end target. What is that goal? $1.75 million. If I had nothing right now, how much would it take on a monthly basis to get there? Let's figure that out. The math on this is if you started at 0 at my age, went 18 years, assuming a 6% investment return, it would take $4,520 per month to get to that goal. That is a number that is not attainable for most. In fact, that's not attainable for 99% of us that are watching this. So this brings me to another point, kind of a sub point is, yes, you got to know your goal, but is your goal realistic? Look, if you're making the choice to retire at 55, maybe you don't need to be spending quite as much, like the $5,000 per month. Maybe it's $4,000. Maybe it's $3,000. That goal of 1.75 million, if we do those reductions, goes down to 1.45 million if you're doing $4,000 per month, and 1.075 million if you're doing $3,000 a month. Now here, at that lower goal, if 3,000 is worthy of retiring early, if that's an enjoyable retirement to you, in my current scenario, which I'm not at 0 right now, I have investments for my future, but at my current scenario, to get there by age 55, I would need to put in 1,640 per month. A far cry from the 4,500 number I mentioned earlier, and something that is much more attainable to do for a lot of people. Not easy, but attainable. Point number 4, look for some sort of side hustle or some sort of cash flow when you're in retirement. If you're retiring at 55, you're ahead of a lot of your peers and a lot of your friends. And so you'll have maybe a little bit more time to kind of fill in with things like this. And by no means am I saying full stress or full time or anything like that. As an example, my dad retired at 55 with a pension. That's a big advantage for sure for those of you who have a pension. But within about 6 to 8 months, he was bored and he started going and selling kitchens for 10 years. He never made a lot of money. I doubt he ever made more than $1,000 per month on average, but it got his brain moving. He got something to do and it brought in that $1,000 per month. Let's revisit Chad's ratio for a second. Chad's ratio says every $1,000 you want to spend in retirement, you need $250,000 if you're retiring this early. Meaning, if you can find a side hustle that brings you $1,000 per month, it's like trimming $250,000 off that target, or like finding $250,000, whichever way you want to look at it. The other part is maybe you say, okay, I'm going to do something that pays me $1,000 a month until I get to age 65. Then OAS is going to come in and it will take up that slack. By then, by my age, maybe it is around 1,000. It's around 700 right now. But we can kind of alleviate some of that with government-backed things like OAS and CPP at that point. So you don't have to commit to it forever. I'm just saying find some cash flow in those early years to really pull the target, pull the goalposts back. Finally, there's point 5, and it's prioritize. Most cannot retire at 55 by accident. Retiring at 55 is a choice that you have to commit yourself to and recommit yourself to over and over for decades. It's not going to be something you do by accident, and it's not going to be easy, but it is absolutely possible. If you're the type of person that's looking to retire by 55, you may be the type of person that would be interested in this video, which is my top 4 reasons why you may want to consider an RRSP meltdown. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep planning.